Critical Role Recap Season 2, Episode 19. So we ended last episode with the Mighty Nine having finished their arena bout, taking their earnings, and then being offered a bunch of different jobs and starting to weigh their options. At the end of it, they were contacted and informed to go find the gentleman and go talk to him again. So that's what we did at the beginning of this episode. The gentleman offered them 2 different jobs. One of them was to go to a somewhat nearby swamp and to find one of their hideout stash houses that the gentleman uses because he's lost contact with it, and to clear it out of whatever baddies have killed his people or made them go missing, recover any goods that they can, and report back to him on their findings. The second job was to go quite a ways out of their way, I think it was like 300-ish miles to the northeast, to go track down this Ophelia person who he works with, who is in some sort of trouble. And so they're to go there, figure out what's going on, help her out, and then bring her back to him. He offered them a total of 2,000 gold for the swamp job, and a total of, I think, 3,000 gold for the getting Ophelia and bringing her back, but maybe that was 5,000? So they decided to go ahead and take on both jobs because he said they're both of a time-sensitive nature, but that he would allow them to take both, and maybe there'd be a bonus if he could get them both done and in a timely manner. So they set off on their way. He told them of the road that they should take as opposed to going through the underground tunnel because maybe some of them weren't the most stealthy people, and there were some creatures down there that could cause them some trouble if they weren't quiet. So they decided to go along the road. So they grabbed up a few last-minute supplies, asked for some supplies from the gentleman, which they received, a couple of potions, a couple of greater healing potions, and then 1 or 2 like cure disease potion, I believe. And then bought some more parchment and ink from Pumat's soul. And Bo thought about buying the bracers, but they were too expensive for her. So they gathered up their horses and cart and went on their way along the road. The first night went by without any issue. They only really got a few good hours of travel, and then they set up camp and nothing much happened. And then they traveled along the next day and set up camp, and that night they were ambushed by a group of goblins, ogres, and wolves that were all working together. There were quite a few enemies that they had to face down, but honestly, it feels like they hit a pretty big power spike when they all hit level 5, and they all feel a lot more powerful, like they can take things out a lot faster. And this combat went by pretty well. Like no one even got knocked down. I don't think anyone even really got brought that low other than Caleb because he took 1 hit and he's just really squishy. But for the most part, they just kind of manhandled them, not even pretended to be with the goblins at first and tricked them into believing that she was on their side since she's a goblin, and that worked out for a little bit. They managed to clear up all of the goblins, ogres, and wolves, except 1 goblin did get away. We learned a little bit more about Nott's backstory about this point, where she said basically that she felt like she was born into the wrong body, the wrong race, where she kind of hates goblins and thinks that they're all like horrible creatures, which for the most part, I mean, they seem to be. And basically that she doesn't identify with them at all and kind of takes joy in killing them because they're evil creatures. And there's just a little bit of hatred and spite there from having grown up with them and being treated the way she was and having to deal with the personalities that goblins have that did not match her own personality at all. Other than that, there wasn't really a ton that happened this episode. They kind of wandered around a bit and discussed what they should do, and then had their chat with the gentleman, went to a couple stores just to kind of get last minute supplies. Bo and Jester had a fist fight randomly when they entered the tavern where the gentleman is, because they witnessed a fight going on as they came in, and Bo and Jester got really amped up and decided to join the fight club, as they called it. And so Bo beat the crap out of Jester using her stun technique that prevented Jester. Basically, Jester got in 1 hit at the very beginning, and then she was stunned and then knocked unconscious the next round before Jester got to act again, basically, because of Bo's flurry of blows, and also because Caleb cast haste on her. So she was hitting like 5 attacks per round and just tore up Jester. But yeah, that was pretty much it. They're getting closer to their swamp destination. where they're going to start investigating what went wrong and fight some cool swamp creatures or whatever and clear out the place and find some stuff in there to bring back to the gentlemen. And then they'll decide from there whether they want to just go ahead and continue on, like send word back and go ahead and continue on to go fetch Ophelia, or go ahead and go back to the gentlemen to get their first small payday and then make their trek out again to take on this bigger task that will pay for more, that will pay more. Honestly, I think this episode was pretty skippable. Like if you're crunched for time, it was fun and entertaining, of course, but there wasn't really that much in the way of development. They just kind of took on some jobs from the gentlemen and started to make their way there. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next week.